The Strange Rock Bottom Incident, written by NirvanaDad and narrated by NirvanaDad. Between the accident, I was left in what other people would call the loony bin. And for exactly 86 days between 2003 and 2004, I was in a room with another person who would become my roommate. His name was Derek. Derek and myself would eventually become friends. One thing that Derek and I agreed on exclusively was watching cartoons. But mainly it was Spongebob SquarePants that him and I would constantly fanboy over. Usually Derek and I would hog the television in the activity room. We would always want it to be on Nickelodeon. I remember it so clearly, and it still haunts me to this day of what I saw on that television and what Derek didn't see. It was a Saturday, January 3rd, 2004. And it was, I would say, around 8:30, maybe 9 a.m. tops. I was lying in bed waiting for Joanna to come in with the usual Saturday breakfast with a side of my usual medication. You see, between October 23rd, 2003 and January 17th, 2004, I put myself into a place where I could be safe from harming myself and also taking a break from society. Let's just say I'm not exactly the kind of guy every girl would just talk to, and I definitely lack social skills involving conversation with people in general. I wasn't making any friends whatsoever, at least on the outside world. But between that and everything else that I want to share with you beautiful people today, I want you to know that I'm not crazy. And I'm not going to stop until someone believes me. Now, Spongebob SquarePants, Season 1, Episode 17. The episode in question includes 2 segments, of course. Arg being the first, and then Rock Bottom being the second. Everything was fine with Arg. It played exactly like it should have. But once it got to Rock Bottom, that's when things started to get a little fucked up. A little too fucked up, in my opinion. If you're not familiar with the episode Rock Bottom, it's an episode where Patrick and SpongeBob go to Glub World and take a bus home. However, they miss their stop and end up stuck in Rock Bottom. While SpongeBob tells Patrick to wait for the bus, it plays out fine until Patrick screams to SpongeBob, "Hey SpongeBob, the bus is here." Now when Patrick says this, it usually goes this way. SpongeBob chases after the bus as Patrick screams out for SpongeBob, and then the bus goes upward back to Bikini Bottom, leaving SpongeBob stuck. However, that's not what happened this time. When Patrick starts to scream that the bus is here, he repeats this line about 3 times. Once SpongeBob is left behind, the screen goes into a blood red color showing SpongeBob, and then cuts out for a second or 2. Then it cuts back to SpongeBob going to the station to get onto the next bus. The part where SpongeBob has to wait in line plays like it should, until the ticket guy tells SpongeBob that it's the last bus until morning. Also, skipping over the noise. As it skips over SpongeBob yelling, "Oh no you don't!" and him commanding the ticket guy to get him a bus to Bikini Bottom instantly. It instead skips to the ticket guy turning out the light and saying, "Good night." That's when the TV started to lag out and glitch into a static of some sort. At this point, I thought maybe something was wrong with the channel, as it's not impossible for something like this to occur. I was looking at Derek, whose eyes were still glued to the TV, not even fazed by whatever I was seeing or what was happening. But then after the static ends, for what seems to be like a good 15 seconds or so, it turns back to that blood red screen. And in that red screen is SpongeBob waiting for the bus at the bus stop. However, in the background, I started to hear faint voices talking and eventually growing louder. I didn't recognize any of the said voices, but there were two I heard. And when I heard them, well, to say the least, they scared the shit out of me. Both were male voices with very, very deep voices. As the blood red screen stayed and SpongeBob stood there motionless, the male voices would talk and say these lines. You'll never leave here. You'll always be here. There's no going back. Come closer. Stay with us. This hell is your home now. The TV screen began to morph into a depiction of what I could only consider hell itself. The two voices laughing as the whole picture was starting to turn, twisting, and going out of control, almost spiraling into something horrifying. It looked like fire, and I mean pure red fire. And then that's when I saw the two faces appear out of nowhere. They were pale white faces mixed with the red background. Their mouths were opened wide with giant grins, and they stopped talking and started laughing even louder. With an evil laugh. It was almost demonic. Their morbid-looking faces with demented eyes staring back at me and laughing so loud that I covered my ears. I couldn't take it. Their laughter to me was like having someone drilling into your eardrums until they bled. It was like going deaf almost, at least close to it anyway. I would look back once more at the faces, and I would scream as loud as I could and try to overpower their laughter. However, it wasn't working too well in my favor. Derek then turned to me and asked me from the opposite side of myself if I was okay. He would tell me to calm down, and he would try to figure out what the hell was going on with me. I could barely hear him talking though. But he didn't realize what was going on with me, obviously. And to say the least, I didn't calm down. I couldn't. It just wasn't possible. I was so disturbed, and I felt like my head was about to explode from the sound of those faces laughing and talking on the TV screen. Derek grabbed me, and as he did, the faces would stop laughing and repeat the same words from before. You'll never leave here. You'll always be here. There's no going back. Come closer. Stay with us. This hell is your home now. Over and over and over again, I began to scream so loud and beg them to go away and to leave me alone. Derek was looking around and trying to scope out who or what I was talking to. and what I was yelling at. I then began to get lightheaded, and from what I was told, my eyes rolled back into my head as if I was seizing, but yet fully aware of what was going on. Derek screamed for someone to come help as loud as he could. That's when things went black. That's when I had a pure second of peace and quiet. That split second felt like a pure relief to me. Next thing I know, I'm strapped down in my bed, unaware of where I am and confused, trying to come to. Derek is beside me. He then asks if I'm okay. I tell him I'm fine and asked what happened. And I ask if he saw what I saw on the television. What are you talking about? We were just watching SpongeBob, like we always do. He then goes on saying that I was screaming and I freaked out. He said that my eyes were rolling back and I wouldn't stop squirming or screaming for whatever or whoever to leave me alone and go away. You didn't see anything or hear those voices? What about the faces? I asked. Derek looked at me like I was fucking nuts, and he shook his head no. The red screen? Did you see the red screen? Derek would then say no. Derek would go on about how it was just the episode Rock Bottom, and it played perfectly fine. No voices or faces, no red screen, just the normal episode. I was very shocked, to say the least. But mostly I was scared. Scared that I was going insane. I went to go talk to my doctor in the facility where I was staying. I didn't tell him what I saw or heard on the television that morning. I just told him that my meds that I was taking made me feel out of it ever since he upped them. Recently, it must have made me do what I did. And that's what made me freak out like it did. Of course I lied and told him that the pills made me spaz out and that he may need to lower my dosage. He agreed with no exceptions. And eventually I was out of the office. 14 days later, I was released and I would go back home. I would try to get out more into society. I would try to meet people and maybe find a girlfriend down the road. Derek and I still keep in touch, but not frequently. He still says to this day that nothing I saw on the TV was what he saw. But I digress. And to all you beautiful people out there, I thank you for listening to me, even if you think I am crazy. But maybe someday, I could find someone, anyone, who saw what I witnessed that morning. But I doubt it. Until then, I'll be waiting, I guess. I'll keep going and living and trying to make my life better. At least I'm not stuck in rock bottom. And I hope I never have to see those faces ever again. If you like the story, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'll have more stories available soon. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.